How could I have known that moment would change my life completely? It was just an ordinary day. Until he walked into that room, until I noticed the door was slightly ajar. Something stirred inside me. In seconds, I could have turned back, ignored it. But I didn't. Because when I realized what I was looking at, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Yes, the mistake was mine. I started it and I didn't stop it. George was there. The house was quiet, but faint noises drifted from upstairs. At first, I knew Elliot was in his room, though I didn't pay much attention. It was one of those moments. A young man lost in his own world. Maybe he'd want some coffee. A little conversation could be nice. As I climbed the stairs, I tried to pinpoint where the sounds were coming from. When I got closer to his room, I saw the door was slightly open. I took a breath, about to call out to him, but then my eyes landed on Elliot. He was sitting on his bed, laptop on his lap, the bright screen casting a glow on his face. His hands were moving. At first, I thought he was watching something exciting, maybe an action movie. But as I stepped closer and shifted my angle, the blood drained from my face. I realized exactly what Elliot was doing. In that moment, my eyes caught the screen's reflection and a cold wave washed over me. I hadn't expected this. I didn't want to see it. Elliot scrambled to pull himself together, frantically muting the laptop, but it was too late. The moment had already happened. When our eyes met, his face turned bright red, the shame in his gaze unmistakable. "Oh, I'm sorry," he stammered, looking away. I felt frozen in place. I moved toward the door, unsure of what I even wanted to say. A strange warmth spread inside me. Yes, I was embarrassed, but my mind raced with thoughts I couldn't grasp. I quickly left the room, my heart pounding in my chest. Pressing my hands to my face, I tried to steady my breath. What the hell was that? I whispered to myself. What had I just done? Why had I been so careless? But was I the only one to blame? Stop this, Darlene, I told myself firmly. But the chaos inside me only grew. Elliot was more than I'd seen before. He was 23 now, no longer a child. But I was 47, a woman who'd lived through enough shame in her life. I'd never been in a situation like this, though I knew exactly what shame felt like. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart still racing as I tried to pull myself together. Running my hands through my hair, I saw Elliot appear at the door. He adjusted his shirt collar, cleared his throat, and avoided eye contact. Darlene, I'm sorry. I thought I'd closed the door, he said, his voice shaky but sincere. I nodded quickly, looking away. No, I should be the one apologizing. I should have knocked. I replied hastily, unsure of what else to say. Silence fell, but not just any silence. Before things shifted between Elliot and me, it hung there, heavy. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and listen to this story until the end. I promise it gets really exciting. By that evening, we hadn't spoken a word to each other. No messages, no eye contact, not even small talk. But that silence whispered that things would never be the same. We sat at the same table for dinner, unable to look at each other. The only sound was the clinking of cutlery against our plates. We needed to talk to ease the tension. We both knew it. But the night passed without a word. The next day and the days after, everything seemed normal, yet nothing truly was. Our silence only deepened the invisible strain between us. Then one afternoon, Elliot sat beside me. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, but he clearly wanted to fix things. Darlene, I'm so embarrassed about the other day. I'm sorry. I don't want things to be like this. Please, I don't want what's between us to be ruined, he said, his voice tight but genuine. As strange and unexpected as it was, I took a deep breath. I needed to reassure him. Smiling slightly, I shrugged. Oh, Elliot, believe me, I've had my share of embarrassing moments over the years, I said, then shared a few with him. His smile softened and he nodded. The shame seemed to fade for a moment and the tension between us eased. But deep down, I knew nothing had truly passed. Though this conversation seemed to mend things, it had erased the boundaries between us entirely. And I felt it. Things were about to go much further. He chuckled softly and lowered his gaze to the table. "I guess we're even now," he said quietly. I furrowed my brow and turned to him. "What do you mean?" I asked, a hint of curiosity in my voice. His expression shifted as if he'd just realized he couldn't take it back. He rubbed the back of his neck, hesitated, but it was too late to stop. Taking a deep breath, he mumbled while looking away, "I've seen you this same way. You just didn't know it." A surge of electricity shot through me and I froze. The weight of his words settled over me. "Elliot," I whispered. His face reddened, but he pressed on. "I never told you because I was so embarrassed, but I never forgot. It was my little secret, something I couldn't get out of my head." My heart pounded wildly, a strange warmth spreading through me. That foreign feeling told me something had changed. Elliot's words weren't just a confession. They shattered the last boundary between us. I looked at him. He looked at me. And we both knew this wasn't an ordinary conversation anymore. I knew exactly what I was doing, yet I didn't realize how Elliot saw me differently. This was one of those moments we could never take back. He hesitated as he adjusted his clothes, his hands dropping to his sides. Looking me in the eyes, he made my breath quicken. The room was so quiet, the air heavy, making it hard to breathe. "I'm not playing this game anymore," Elliot said, his voice soft at first but firm as he held my gaze. I stared back, unblinking, my heart racing. What was he trying to say? "Is it you?" he added, his voice deepening slightly. "We both know you think about it before you go to sleep." A shiver ran through me. I took a small step back, but my feet felt glued to the floor. "Elliot, this isn't right," I said, my voice trembling. He smiled faintly. Not an innocent smile. "We've long passed the point of deciding what's right, Darlene. Stop lying to yourself," he replied, stepping closer. Another step, and he was so near I could feel his breath on my skin. His fingers gently brushed my cheek. I wanted to look away, but couldn't. Because deep down, I knew he was right. Then Elliot's lips met mine. All the silence, all the tension, every answer was wrapped in that moment. The thoughts echoing in my mind fell silent, my doubts turning to whispers. I hadn't resisted Elliot, and the truth was, I'd never wanted to. My hands trembled, but seeing the determination in his eyes, I didn't pull away. There was nothing left to hide. I swallowed, took a deep breath, and slowly slipped the straps of my clothes off my shoulders. "You're right, Elliot," I whispered, barely audible. "Let's stop playing this game." I closed the distance between us completely, lying back on the bed. My heart pounded, but there was no turning back. Elliot leaned over me slowly, looking into my eyes before smiling. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "Everything's okay." I looked away, a shiver running through me. Even if I could admit it to myself, I knew how long I'd been waiting for this. Yet I couldn't stop the words from slipping out. This story isn't over yet. Make sure you're following and subscribed. Don't miss what happens next. Turn on notifications and leave a comment. It'll keep you one step ahead in these stories. Your support means everything. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Elliot's words hung in the air, his warmth echoing through my body. I tried to tear my eyes away from him, but I couldn't. His gaze seemed to hold me captive. He leaned down slowly, his breath on my neck sending a shiver through me. "You want this too, don't you?" he whispered, his voice as soft as velvet, yet so dangerous. I couldn't answer. I was speechless, but my body was already saying everything. His hand slowly slid from my shoulder, his fingers tracing a trail across my skin. I took a deep breath, my heart beating wildly in my chest. "Elliot," I said, my voice shaky and weak. But he didn't stop. He placed a finger under my chin and turned my face to his. When our eyes met again, the distance between us melted away. His lips touched mine once more, this time bolder, hungrier. His kiss was gentle at first, then wild, as if he was letting out everything he had been suppressing for so long. His hands went down to my waist, pulling me to him. The contact of our bodies was like electricity, searing, unstoppable. He reached for the buttons of my shirt, looking into my eyes as he undid them one by one. With each button undone, my skin met the air, and I felt the weight of his gaze more and more. "Darlene," he said, desire and a kind of defiance in his voice. "I know you want this. Don't lie to me." I couldn't lie. The strange warmth inside me had grown out of my control. I put my hand on his chest. I felt his heart. It was as fast as mine. I slid my fingers under his t-shirt. The feel of his hard muscles drove me even crazier. Instead of pushing him away, I pulled him to me, my lips sliding to his neck. His moan broke the silence of the room as the taste of his salty skin dissolved on my tongue. We moved slowly towards the bed, our movements hurried yet deliberate. When he leaned over me, his weight intoxicated me. As my hands roamed over his back, he nibbled lightly on my earlobe, then whispered, "I've always wanted to touch you." Those words broke the last resistance in me. I wrapped my legs around him, our bodies pressed together,